Hello, friends and lovers. Welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed, the television edition. I'm your host, Matt Connarton, and we're going to get right into it because we have a great guest here today. I will introduce him post-haste, as they say. We have with us Mr. K. Daver. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
This is actually your second time on the show.
Mm-hmm.
You were on the television edition back during the first season when we used to do it over at QCE News.
Yeah, it feels like forever ago.
So a little different, yeah. You were on. You brought Pick Your Poison with you that time.
Yeah.
You still?
My homeboy Curse Blythe is in that group. No, I don't really associate with the group anymore. Curse Blythe is a close friend of mine.
Yeah.
Not on business or anything like that. I never really had associations with the other people in the group.
Yeah.
And then, it's what it is.
Well, and this is the second day in a row I'm seeing you, because yesterday we do want to mention we taped another episode of Local Outbreak. Mm. That was your third time on Local Outbreak. You brought Kinetic with you, so second time with Kinetic. But that's going to go up. That'll be available on FM radio this Sunday night at 10 p.m. For anyone in central New Hampshire who's watching, you can listen to it on 100.1 The Planet. New Local Outbreak every Tuesday night at... every Sunday night, rather, at 10 p.m. And then it will be available shortly thereafter, because I know we have people all over the place who watch the show. Immediately after that, it'll be up at ipmnation.com/localoutbreak, so you'll be able to listen to it then. Because we archive all the shows online. And I'm kind of hoping, because the show's called Local Outbreak, and you know how... it's actually Dan Randlett put this idea into my head. I don't know if you've ever met... I don't think you've met Dan. You know how after 9/11, when there was the anthrax scare, there are people sending letters with anthrax in them, and the band Anthrax kind of benefited from that a little bit because it got them some publicity. So I'm kind of hoping that with the whole Ebola thing, maybe Local Outbreak will get some publicity.
Hey man, anything's possible.
Because people here, with people are so freaked out, they hear Local Outbreak, they're like, "Oh my God, is it here?"
Right.
So it's a good attention getter.
People are stressing too heavy about that. Although it could be a good ploy to get people in the FEMA camps.
There we go. What I need is an IPM Nation FEMA camp.
That'd be awesome. Airing live 24/7.
I don't know how to get that done. I mean, I'll have to look into it. There's probably paperwork.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Get friends with Dick Cheney. Halliburton owns him, doesn't it?
So we're going to play a new track in a minute. You've got a new CD, We the People. And how many tracks are on it total?
12.
So it's a full length.
Yeah.
What made you decide to want to do that, by the way, a full length? Because a lot of people I know now, they just do EPs or they just release a single at a time. Why a full length? Is there a consistent theme running through the disc? Or?
Yeah, I mean, the whole theme is literally We the People. That is at its bare bones what it is. Political anthem, hard, aggressive tracks, produced by The Process.
Yeah.
My producer, if you will. And it just felt right. We didn't go into it with any type of conceived notion or preconceived notion, rather, of, this is what the CD is going to sound like. What basically happened was song after song after song was all themed along this nature. So that's how we packaged it, and that's how we promoted it. And if you seen the cover for the record?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the cover for the record is someone in prison with a faded flag behind them. I mean, we have one of the highest prison populations globally.
Absolutely. Well, we lock people up for getting high.
Right.
We can talk about that a little more later.
That's something I
address quite a bit on this show, actually, in my ranting and raving. And that's something for those of you watching too. If you're going, for anyone who might be thinking, oh, he's got a musician this week. K. Daver, there's a lot of substance in his lyrics, which we'll talk about, and he's very politically aware. And in terms of, as you may have already gleaned from the conversation that we've had thus far, so there will be some things discussed that are very much in line with what we usually talk about on this show. He's a musician, but he also, your art reflects your concerns about what's going on in the world to a large extent. And other things too, but you're certainly not rapping about what you hear on commercial hip hop radio, and your style is very different from what you hear on commercial hip hop radio as well. So, and I picked the track that we're gonna play for you today. This is my personal favorite of the ones that you've shared with me so far. So we'll go ahead and play that now, and then we'll come back and chat. But pay attention to the lyrics. Oh, who else is on this with you? Because you've got some other people on this track with you.
Yeah, you got Ill Bill from the Coca Nostra, nonfiction groups such as he's in groups with Everlast, DJ Lethal, Slain, Jedi Mind Tricks, with Vinny Paz, Heavy Metal Kings. I mean, the guy's a legend.
Oh yeah,
the guy's just a legend in the rap game. And God bless, man. God bless him coming on the record. You know, he came absolutely correct, 110% professional. You also have El Mays, who's a Manchester local.
Okay.
You know, I mean, he came correct on the track as well.
And the Process produced it, or you produced it and he engineered it, or what?
Nah, Process produced everything on the record. There was a couple tracks. I think this might have been one of them where me and him kind of like got together and started getting the skeleton of the beat done.
Yeah.
But then he went head and shoulders above. So
yeah.
You know.
No, it's everything. I mean, it sounds incredible, everything I've heard so far. So definitely. Well, why don't we go ahead and we'll play that. So check this out. Like I said, pay attention to the lyrics. This is All I Want from K. Daver. And the new disc, We the People, here on Matt Connarton Unleashed. Take
pedestal, you knew it's inevitable. Compared with heavy metal, turn your sheep into vegetables. Single with weak tats and looking like riff-raff. Blind, deaf, ignorant, malignant, but that's that. Look down on these apes, genocidal, recital, vitals, fanning fast and laugh. Make it insightful, skin for the beginning. Changing chords hard, souls being imprisoned in the longest yard. Slaves of blades will not stop for a lift. Smelling Christians and corpses like what is this? Iconic calligraphy, literally falls down. You made don't think I'm not about sale. Dream my camps high and ready to go war quick. Quick way to virus, that'll get a horse sick. Take me to your leader and captain and kind of leads up. With captions for bastards who's happy to battle receiver.
Killers with guns, murderers, villains and thugs. Street level to elite level, billions and drugs. Mexican border decapitation, jury's the judge. Judge's executioner with the fury to crush. All in the path of the wrath of the map. Slash acid pack, action rap. Spazzing like a savage with the ratchet clap. Snatch a spitting on all of Lucifer. Shadow cast when the poster barrels blast and pierce you like an arrow shaft. I know you're tight, crabby with the nervous coward laugh. This tornado rap, the brain pain and shower rap. That PCP rap, angel dust in the hourglass. And blowjobs from 72 furnaces like Taliban. Pestilence rolls, exodus flows. Death will explode, tension with an excellent flow. Heads will roll like Mexican cold. Ill bill, bad grandpa, walk around, let my testicles show.
Off by a zombie on a mission. Band assault kingpin, out run New England. Snitching at your funeral, shoot you in the back of the skull while you're standing up, pissing in a urinal, fighting on my enemies while I'm rotten acid. Drugs, sex, orgies, murder, black magic. Got you addicted to my music like a drug habit. Dead wanna be rapper, macho man, Randy Savage. Snitches get stitches, then they get put in the ditches, or they get put in the gipsy, then put in a cage with the bitches. Torture till they die, make them swimming with the fishes. Stab you in the eye, will drink it, I know it's delicious. This is real life, kid, stop talking about mine. Or I'll put you in a wheelchair, let you live and watch your mom die. All I wanna do is stack paper to the ceiling fan. So much paper, there's no room for a ceiling fan.
So there you go. That was All I Want from K. Daver's new disc, We the People. And so how many CDs have you put out now? Is this your second full length?
I've released, and there's even like albums of material that aren't even released yet. So
yeah, because I think the first time I ever interviewed you, I think Death by Design had just come out.
Yeah, that's what I consider my first professional release.
Yeah.
As far as packaging, me being a complete artist, and just the way it was marketed and things of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you are you planning a tour with this disc, or what's your plan? Because I know you've done a bunch of touring. You hit the road. You went all over the place, didn't you? With who was it? The Rugged R.A. the Rugged Man and
Yeah, R.A. the Rugged Man. I've been on tour with R.A. the Rugged Man. We've
Yeah.
done solo tours. We've done pretty much shows with everyone in the industry. As far as the underground is concerned, Cottonmouth Kings, ICP, Mortal Technique, Slain, again, R.A. the Rugged Man,
Yeah.
Twisted. The list goes on. So,
yeah.
done shows with everyone, done musical collaborations with various guests. It's just literally, as independent man, it's all about just treading forward and grinding.
Yeah.
Every step of the way.
Yeah, but it's a challenge. I mean, we talked about it too on Local Outbreak. You have the challenge of what you're doing is unique. As people just heard from that track, like I said, it doesn't sound like anything else that's out there really. I mean, there's nobody I can compare you to. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how much of a I would think with something like that, it would be a challenge in terms of finding other people to play with, other people to tour with, but can also be an advantage in that, you stand out. You certainly stand out from the pack in that regard. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Man, I don't know. We just do us.
Yeah.
There's no what we should sound like. It's just what we do.
Yeah.
It is very difficult as far as we don't sound like anybody.
Right.
And the people we sound close to don't want to work with us because, it is what it is. Them cats have established fan bases. Like, they can tour globally.
Right.
Screw nationally even. So the cats that are close to us don't really want to nurture that because they've plateaued. They're in their 40s. Late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah. And
so you got cats coming up in their 20s that are hungry and will literally do it for a quarter of the price of these cats. And it's just like they don't want to give you the in.
Right, right.
So
yeah.
Whatever.
So let's talk a little bit about content because obviously, like we were saying, your lyrics are, you're not rapping about riding around in an Escalade and going to clubs and
I hate clubs, so why would I talk about it?
right yeah, I'm with you. Have you always written from the point of view that you write from now in terms of events and sort of quasi political stuff? I mean, have you always kind of gone that route, or was there
Since
an
day
evolution
one?
that took place? Yeah.
No. Started out like as a horrorcore artist, if you will.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's funny because a lot of people will not admit this, but a lot of the cats that I've come across, we all had a similar route. We're all influenced by the ICPs and the Eshams and the
Sure.
rap of that nature as adolescent and mid-teens and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then it gets to a point you're just like, why am I talking? As you get older and actually grow up,
Yeah.
literal term, you grow up and you're like, why am I even talking about this?
Right.
And then it's also like you're just too lyrical to be in that genre to begin with. So, it is what it is. It's just, it was an evolution to this point. The easiest for me, some cats, it takes them 6 hours to write a verse. Some cats write in 10 minutes. Me, I could write a complex compound verse in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Fire. Because it's just, how can I just expel everything that I feel? You
Right.
know what I mean? It's not like I sit there and it's like, well, I got to say this. No, it's like, what do I want to say? And if it's not real, I don't say it.
Yeah.
I don't talk about, I got guns, but I don't talk about pulling them on people or robbing
Right.
people or things
Right.
of that nature.
Yeah.
Christ, I got guns because the cops have guns. They scare me more than anybody. But,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah. Do you find yourself in situations where you have to explain to people, and again, we talked about it on Local Outbreak, how, sometimes people aren't, they're not expecting the loud guitars live and whatnot and all that, the presentation. Because, I've seen you live twice, and when you hit the stage at the start of your set, it's kind of like a traditional rock show that you see in an arena, where, it's like all of a sudden, bang, the lights are up and they're there and it's loud and you know what I mean?
Right.
Which I appreciate, like being a Kiss fan, I appreciate that kind of thing. And you're very much that way. Like the first time I saw you with Kinetic, it was very much like that. It was just immediate. And we were talking during Local Outbreak about how people aren't always prepared for that. But I'm also curious, Do you find yourself in situations where you have to kind of explain to people what you're doing in terms of lyrics? Do you have to, like, do you have, I don't know, kids coming up to you at shows and being like, I don't understand what you're talking about. You didn't mention an Escalade. What are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Right. Yes and no. Yeah, we do a lot of times. Absolutely have to do that. But even in the backpack, like, genre, if you will, when we do shows with them kids, you know what I mean? It's like they won't talk about Escalades, but they'll talk
Right.
about similar stuff like smoking weed, getting messed up, you know, all that stuff. You know, we don't. If I even talk about that, it's like I don't bring that out in a positive light. You know, if I talk about drinking and things of that, it's like because of my inner demons and things of that nature. So those kids don't get it for that reason. You know, we do a rock show where our music is themed, you know, with rock, but there's no live instruments.
Yeah.
So they don't know, you know, what to expect. It's literally a line that very few cross.
Right.
No one really wants to mess with it.
Yeah. Who have you listened to who influences you? And I'm really interested in lyrically who influences you. Who do you you know, I mean, if there is anyone specific, because you know, because what you're doing, what you're putting across is pretty ambitious in terms of how you present it. So I mean, is there anyone who you've kind of, you know, listened to and said, I want to be able to do what he does lyrically, or just in terms of his flow or whatever? I mean, obviously, I know there's people like Arya the Rugged Man who you respect, but I mean, in terms of what you actually put down on tape.
At this stage of my career, the people that actually inspire me, it's probably Chino XL. I mean, we talked about it before.
Yeah.
Chino XL is just on a completely different level lyrically. He doesn't talk about the same rhetoric that most rappers will.
Yeah.
And he flips it up 5 times in one song, to where you just gotta replay the song 5 times. Like, wow, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
You know, you got Twisted. I got lots and lots of respect for them. They don't necessarily, they don't inspire me lyrically.
They kind of get lumped in though, right? With
They
with
kind
the
of get lumped in. Oh, they are. Well,
stuff,
I mean, we were on Psychopathic for so long, so I mean, they just are. That is Juggalo music, if you will.
Yeah.
But they inspire me on a different level, more or less, just the way they put their music together. You know, they're not afraid to be themselves. At all. And you know what I mean? The way they harmonize and do hooks and play off of each other, that inspires me. Those are pretty much the only 2 people that really inspire me to write, or in the musically anyway. I mean, there's plenty of cats that inspire me business.
Sure.
Yeah, insanity.
Ha! Somebody left a cell phone in here, apparently. I don't know if the mics are picking that up, but somebody's cell phone is ringing over in that corner of the room. That's funny.
The show's going off without a hitch.
All kinds of things going on today. This is interesting energy. Yes, this is live, even for those of you who watch the show later on demand. We do the show live when it initially airs. And is that your phone, John?
No. Where is it?
Over there in the corner. I heard it ringing. Is his mic all right?
Yeah, his mic was fine. It was my mistake.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure everybody can hear him. Yeah, who inspires you on a business level? Because I'm always interested in that.
Tech 9. I have my reservations of him. I have my own personal opinions of him as an artist and what he does, or whatever.
Yeah.
I love his music, his body as a whole. Some of the stuff he does now is a little more mainstream than I would like.
Yeah, he did kind of go. I remember a few years ago hearing that track "Red Nose," and he was kind of talking about like nobody in the mainstream wants to work with him, or it seemed to be the vibe. And
like a year later, he's doing stuff for the win. But
yeah,
that's his business.
Yeah.
And as a grown man, I can't have nothing but respect for the way someone wants to do stuff. But the way I look at them independently, they inspire me.
Yeah,
the way they do their business and the way they're so organized. Like, one thing I'm not good at is organization. So watching them is just bar none. And you know, looking at Tech 9, it took him so many years to get over independently. But the saddest truth of this all, and this is not me pulling the carpet underneath Tech 9 or pulling away the curtain in front of him. They've all admitted this. When he got with Travis O'Guin was a multi-million-dollar furniture mogul. So he had millions of dollars backing him from the jump.
Now, who is Travis O'Guin?
Travis O'Guin is CEO of Strange Music.
Okay.
It's my understanding that he went to Tech and said, "Hey, I'll give you half of this label. You come sign with me. We'll push you as the flagship artist, and then we'll bring up people as we get larger or whatnot." So he had millions of dollars back in from the jump, and that's not to knock him, but that's just to show you that how rugged this music business is. And you know what I mean? It's like, this is not easy. So for everyone out there that's like saying that they would do this or they would do that, you probably wouldn't do any of it. Right. Because you're not in it.
Right, exactly. I got to say, I mean, Tech Nine is someone who I respect because, and I like, I had a friend who turned me on to some of his earlier material, and it's pretty interesting. But anybody who can really succeed on that level and build sort of an empire, and I remember in one of the hip-hop magazines several years ago reading, I don't remember which magazine, but they had a big article about strange music and how successful it is. And anybody who can succeed on that level in the music industry with almost no support from radio, that always impresses me. You know, even if it's an artist who I'm not a particular fan of. I mean, I've always been, you know, I don't like the Grateful Dead. I don't like that music personally, but I've always respected them for being one of the biggest touring bands ever with no support from radio. Or Fish, another band like that in that genre, who I just don't like that stuff. But you know, but they were, you know, playing stadium-sized crowds, you know, out in a field somewhere. You know, that always impresses me. ICP, I'm not much of a fan, but they built an empire while being shunned by radio and television too, really. I mean, you know, they're never going to be musical guests on SNL. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if they do, it's a joke, probably. You know, I mean, not to they inspire me business-wise.
Yeah.
Watching what they've done, and they also inspire me to, if I were ever to get to that level of owning a label, and having a mass amount of artists under me, I'll treat them with a little more respect.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's like parents forget what it's like to be a kid, and top artists forget what it's like to come up.
Right.
You know, you often forget. It's like, wow, we did it. Well, how about stopping the cycle? You know, enough of this trying to get artists to pay to play, and enough of putting them down and all these diss tracks. It's like, why are we not working together?
Yeah.
You know, there's like this big pot of money, and everyone just wants as much as they can for themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And shout out to all them making $10 million a year and all that, but geez, man, why are we not working together and making music flourish, you know? Because it's like, as soon as that figure stops or gets bad, if you will, quality lessens over the years, because you've been making $10 million a year for 10 years, you're not very hungry.
Right.
You've eaten. So music's deteriorated. Now people, you know, because on the ground level, people are looking for that next ICP, that next, you name it, next big group.
Sure.
So it's like, well, if we were all working together, we could all help each other out.
Right.
You know what I mean? But now it's like everyone's looking for that group. So it's like, I literally believe now, if someone just had an awesome push behind them, like cats at the top would be shaking. And that's why, again, just bring this conversation full circle, that's why they don't want to lend a hand or shed light to cats coming up.
Yeah.
Because that's the market.
Yeah. Except when it's to their advantage. Because you mentioned pay to play, and that's something that's very pervasive now. Particularly in the touring industry, where you have, for example, I always tell people, if you go to see a band, like say you're fans of a major, take any major rock band, for example, because I don't know how pervasive this is in hip hop. It's probably exactly the same, but I know with touring rock bands, if you have, let's say you got a co-headlining band, and like right now, Kiss and Def Leppard, they just wrapped up a co-headlining tour. And if you've got a third band on that bill, and I don't even remember who the third band, the opener was. I don't even remember their name now. But if you've got that third band and it's someone you've never heard of, never even heard them on the radio or whatever, it's because they paid to get on that tour. They're not getting paid. Right. They paid money. They had to shell out money, their management or the label or whomever. And people don't realize that.
Yeah, it's the same in hip-hop, rap, rather, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I've never done it. You
Yeah.
know, the tour I did with R.A. the Rugged Man, I booked myself.
Yeah.
I literally booked myself. I created a new email, a new
Well,
alias.
can I just say to your credit, for someone who's not very organized, you've accomplished a lot in terms of, because yeah, you've never had a manager to do all that for you. You've done a lot on your own to be able to go out and do that tour that you did and to put that together yourself. I mean, maybe you're not that organized, but you've obviously got something else going on. You've got the drive, the ambition, whatever it is. You've got something happening there where you were able to really accomplish something.
Yeah, what's that quote at the end of Blow? He says,
I haven't seen that in so long.
My drive and ambition clearly outweighed my talent or something. I think that's what it is. I'm so hungry. I'm so determined. There's no turning back. There's no plan
Right.
B. I have no skills. Like, I'm not a carpenter. I'm not a mechanic, welder. I can't fall back and grab a high-paying job. It's either this or failure.
Right.
It's literally this or failure. So when people are like, dude, you work 16-hour days, music videos, record people in your studio, then you record your own stuff, and then you come to do a radio interview, and you come to do television, and then you go out, and then you do a verse, whatever. It's like, there's no time. Everyone, these rappers really need to stop. These rappers like, we're out here making moves, we're doing things. Well, you better. We're not mechanics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what else are you doing?
Right.
If you're a rapper and this is your career, stop being, you hear these carpenters that work 50, 60 hours a week. They ain't talking like that. They're not like,
Right.
oh, yeah, we're out here building things. That's what
We're out here swinging hammers, son.
So, what? You do what you love, you make a few songs and do a music video, and you're out here making big moves. Like, that's foolish.
Right.
Calm down.
Right, yeah.
Those are typically the people with no substance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is that a constant thing, having to fight, just the misconceptions people have?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Misconceptions of how easy it is and misconceptions of what rap is. So when I say I rap, it's almost, I don't know how else to explain it, but it's almost like I'm embarrassed. Rap literally has a negative stigma to the degree.
Yeah.
If I say I rap, people are like, oh, like Waka Flocka. Or they'll name a bunch of names that has nothing to do with what I do. And then I'll say the names that are close to what I do. And they're like, oh, yeah, we don't like that. Or if people are into those style of names, it's like, well, I do this. And then they hear it. They're like, oh, it's completely different. Well, I know it's completely different, but it's the closest thing.
Yeah.
So
that's what you just said. It reminds me of, it's very close to what, I don't know if you know Solo Saloon. They're from the North Country here in New Hampshire. And they've been on Local Outbreak a couple times. But Jacob Quimby, the front man, he raps, but he calls himself a poet, because we were talking about how he said something very similar to what you just said. You tell people you rap, you're a rapper, and people have preconceived notions about what that is, and then they automatically, I think the way he said it is, they will automatically associate you with whatever they hate, with whomever they hate, specifically in rap. So if you if they hate Jay-Z and you tell them you rap, in their minds they immediately associate you with Jay-Z, and they immediately hate you as much as they hate Jay-Z. And he also talked too about how hard it is, because they're also, to their credit, they're also very unique. You should check them out. They don't sound anything like you. You don't sound anything like them, but they're also approaching it from a very different point of view. Not just lyrically, but in terms of the production. It's almost like I won't even attempt to describe what they do. Just as I have a hard time describing what you do, I can't describe what they do either. But yeah, what he said was very much like what you said. I want to ask you about, have you always been interested in the world and how things work, and how things work, politically or geopolitically, and you talk, like you referenced earlier, FEMA camps and things like that. And at what age did you become interested in things like that and learning about that?
Oh, man. 17 maybe.
Really? Yeah.
It wasn't like my whole life or anything like that.
Sure.
Pretty much just watched a film. I forget the name of it at this point. Basically broke down all the inconsistencies of the 9/11 report, and just kept spiraling into different movies and texts and books and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that really just broke my entire psyche was this movie I was watching. He was describing the monetary system.
Mm-hmm.
He's describing all it does and this, that. And at the very end, he goes, and none of it exists.
Right.
Money doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, so right. And I know it's so simple.
It's
but
all
sometimes,
data.
Sometimes sometimes the simplest thing is the most accurate.
Right.
It shakes you up the most. Like, none of this exists. You know, I go down to a coffee shop right now and pay a couple dollars for coffee, you know, because we think it means something.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what's it really do?
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all just data being moved
Slavery.
around. And did you immediately find yourself, once you kind of had that moment where you got really interested in this, did you then immediately start putting that into your art in terms of what you wrote about?
Yeah, I think it was hand in hand actually. Like my first record, as you referenced, Death by Design, and the inside of it has a cure for HIV.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that too when you were on Local Outbreak the first time. Yeah.
So, creation of HIV to lessen the population, and specifically the population that the powers that be didn't want, African Americans, homosexuals. Just the monetary structure in general, the Federal Reserve, all these things that are put in place to enslave the people. You know, slavery never left.
Right.
I think that's the biggest misconception of American history. Prove me wrong.
I want to ask you about specifically about war, because obviously this is on people's minds with the whole, with ISIS or ISIL or the IS, whatever you want to call them. And it's something I talk about a lot on this show. And I have to tell you, going back to the invasion of Iraq, my thinking on that has evolved a bit, because I used to believe that, well, I've always said it's the biggest foreign policy blunder in the history of the country. At the time, I felt that they were just arrogant. They thought it was all going to be easy. And the invasion was easy. It was the occupation that turned out not to be easy. I now look back, and my thinking has changed. I now believe that they knew, actually, that it wasn't going to be easy and that it was intentional. Because I look at where we are now. We're stuck. I believe we're absolutely stuck. And I've been saying on the show, it's kind of become a cliche that I now repeat every week, but if I live to be 100 years old, on the day that I die, we'll still be fighting this war in the Middle East, because I believe the invasion of Iraq set off, obviously it destabilized the region. There is still some people who won't accept that it was, that is a direct cause of what we're dealing with now. But I now believe it was intentional, because they wanted to get us dug in and bogged down to feed the military-industrial complex. And I know, too, when you use that term, military-industrial complex, some people associate that with, conspiracy theory stuff and whatnot. And I have gotten into a habit, and regular viewers know that I now say very often on this show, I will begin a thought or one of my rants with the comment, I will say, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but, and then I get into that stuff, and I'm really curious to know how you feel about all of that, because I feel like I probably agree with or am more open to a lot of what you speak about much more now than I was even maybe a year ago, because I'm beginning to see things, and that doesn't mean that I necessarily am ready to sign on to the idea that about 9/11 being an inside job or all of that. I'm not going that far with it, but there are a lot of things that you have spoken about, things that other people have spoken about, where I'm now kind of going, yeah, I think they're on to something here. I mean, what are your? I know it's kind of a big broad question, but what are your thoughts on
Right.
war and where we are with that?
Let me answer that, but let me ask one question first. What do you think happened with 9/11? Like, what's your stance, if you don't mind me asking?
My theory has always been that the truth lies somewhere in between. I have a hard time believing that it's this massive conspiracy, but I've also thought that there are definitely things about it, because there are things about it that don't add up. I think that there are things about it that the government clearly doesn't want us to know, not necessarily because there's a big conspiracy, because the one thing I can't accept about the the truther argument, the conspiracy argument is I just can't accept that the thousands of people required to keep that secret could keep that secret. That's my biggest problem with it. However, I absolutely believe there are things the government doesn't want us to know, either because they don't want us to know just how drastically they truly failed us on that day. I mean, we know they failed us. Condoleezza Rice apparently had that memo that went across her desk saying bin Laden intending to fly planes into buildings. But I suspect that either the failure is so much more massive and infuriating than the average American has any idea of, and they don't want us to know that, and or there are specific things about how our foreign policy really works that they want us to continue to be ignorant of. For example, I know there's those 28 classified pages of information that only, I guess, members of Congress can see them, but the theory is that, they talk about the Saudi government being directly involved to some degree. The Saudis, who are supposed to be our friends, even though they're a constitutional monarchy, but we need that oil, et cetera, et cetera. We all know how that works with the oil. That's kind of where I am with all of that. Sorry, that was a very long, drawn-out answer to it. But
fine. I think a lot of, I just want to put in a little bit, like if Dick Cheney called down the Air Force to not attack the planes going towards the buildings. So that's the first time in American history that vice president or president was in charge of the national defense, like telling them to stand down. So seems fishy on that. But to answer your question about war, man, we've been a war machine from day one. Yeah. I think people have a misconceived notion of what America is.
It's a business.
And tell me when we weren't. Maybe, what, 30 years here? Well, then what happened? Right. It goes down the whole list in the lineage of American history. Prisons, war. Basically, it's like any way we are the sleaziest people you could imagine. I feel it's like any way we can make money, we're gonna do it. We're gonna make you sick, and then big pharma's gonna make money because you're sick, and then they're gonna get paid off of it. And then you have no jobs now, so you must go to war. We're going to underpay you. And all these benefits that we claim we're going to give you, we're never going to give you. And you come back without a leg, and nobody cares. We're so desensitized to the whole thing. Nobody cares. Yeah. You got people, God bless them, but you have servicemen and women standing in front of Walmart begging for change. Like Walmart allows them.
It's heartbreaking.
And nobody cares.
I know.
Maybe, what's that $40 going to do? Is that going to erase the memory of you having to mow down people in front of you and your best friend dying in your hands and the leg you don't have and the job you can't get because no one,
people care when they're running for election. They talk like they care, but then
no one cares.
But no one.
So I'm just rambling. My whole thought is I don't like it.
Though.
I don't like it. Yeah. But when's it ever been different?
Have you ever dealt with, because I've run into this, have you ever dealt with someone calling you unpatriotic because of how you feel about this stuff and how we treat how we approach all of this, the sleazy stuff that we do?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
Well, you're lucky.
I don't put myself out there.
Are you on Twitter?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I may have and just
that's
brush
where
it
I
off.
get it on Twitter.
But see, you're also at a broader avenue, with media. You have me in here today, and then I don't know, but next week you could have a literal politician, or then the week after that a movie, and the week after that a teacher. You have a broader media, so you bring people into your world that can critique that and criticize you and not like the direction where I'm at. It's like, if you're listening to me, it's because you want to. Yeah. Because I'm not on the radio. I don't buy on to tours. I don't buy on to all this. So it's like, if you see me, you gotta want to see me. Yeah. Nobody. I had chance at shows. I said, when I say 9/11 wasn't, you say inside job. Crowd goes crazy. Right. I've never been called unpatriotic once. If anything, I feel I am patriotic because I back the freedom of speech to its fullest intent.
Right. And what I always tell people too, and actually, you know what? No one's ever said it to my face, but like I said, on Twitter or whatever, people listen to my show and they hear me talking about this stuff. And what I always tell people is, it's kind of like, I use this analogy. If you have a child and your child is messing up, and of course I not that I speak from experience, because I'm not a parent, but if you have a child and your child messes up, you got to discipline the kid and correct that behavior. You don't say, well, I'm not going to discipline my kid. I'm going to pretend that they're not doing anything wrong because if I discipline my kid, it means I don't love my kid. Nobody says that. And I feel it's the same way in terms of patriotism. I love my country, which is why I so much hate the evil that we do,
Right.
which is why I want to see it corrected. Not that it ever will, because even though I'm an optimist by nature, even the most optimistic people are, cynical and pessimistic about certain things, and I'm cynical and pessimistic about everything we're talking about today. I don't believe any of it's ever going to change. But
So then why are we talking about it?
because for me, it's therapy, to be honest with you. I'm thinking about changing the name of the show to Matt Connarton's Weekly Therapy Session. It's especially frustrating too. Like, some of it's so obvious. The way we treat our veterans just makes me nuts.
The way we treat people.
Yeah.
Like, literally treat people, man. It's like if somebody makes $18 an hour, they look down on someone that makes $8 an hour. I mean, broad blanket statement there, but just in general, it's like somebody has a disability, if you will. Everyone makes fun of it, jokes about it. And veterans especially. I just think it's cultural. So I think with the veterans, you see it more because the veterans come back. Like, the veterans, fought for us. I mean, whether you believe in the war or not, they went out there and fought.
Right.
And they came back, and if everything actually were to, if something legitimate were to happen, they would be the people getting deployed and fighting.
Right.
So for them to be treated bad, it really, in my opinion, just reflects how we treat everybody.
Yeah.
Like, no one's left out.
Absolutely. It's interesting too. The way we treat our veterans goes all the way back to, you can trace that all the way back to World War I, when they had to march on Washington just to try to get the benefits they were promised.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's not even a recent thing or something going back to Vietnam. I mean, there's been times where it's been more visceral than others, but yeah, it's just awful. Do you have are you perhaps more optimistic than I am? Because I just expressed that I have no optimism. Do you have any optimism?
Yeah, I'm not optimistic the system will change.
Right.
I'm optimistic eventually, because, how many times are you going to be treated like garbage? I'm optimistic that the people will make change within themselves. And societies, cultures, and even villages, if you will come together. And break the programming, if you will, and move on from there. The system won't change. It's just like, why would the system change? The system, for them, it might look broken to us. For them, the system's great.
Right. The system protects itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Have you gone into, or have you considered getting into any other art forms outside of music?
I edit music videos and things like that.
Yeah.
So, that's my opinion in art form.
Of course, yeah.
Not really. What else you referencing? Like painting and stuff like that?
Yeah, or just because, you have a lot to say, you have a lot to express. Sometimes people, they find they can't quite express everything they want to in one art form, so they start reaching out for other things. I didn't know if maybe...
I'm not good at visual arts such as drawing, painting, and stuff.
Me neither. I can draw stick figures if somebody asks me to draw a person, and that's about it. Do you? What about working with other artists? Because I know that in the past, when you had, because you did at one point have a label, was that strictly for your own stuff, or were you working with some other artists at that point?
Yeah, I had a few other artists on it. The biggest issue about me having artists on my label, the number one factor, is like they typically have to record in my studio.
Right.
And so if that's the case, it's like, well, I got to record my stuff.
And they should want to. Your stuff sounds great.
Yeah, and then, absolutely. But then I got outsourced clients who aren't on my label that are recorded in my studio, and then I do music videos, and then I do shows, touring, and just email after email after email, and anything else you can imagine. 2-hour long business meetings with my team discussing future plans up to 2-3 times a week. So, it's not easy. And the biggest thing about the label is, like, no one was really self-sufficient to break it down just as a blanket statement. No one was self-sufficient. Everyone needed my studio.
Right.
Everyone was. It wasn't like, what can we do for us? It was, what can you do for me?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was curious to ask you about too. Is how pervasive is, from your point of view, is it that people don't people who get into this, who get into music, regardless of genre, they don't understand the work involved, because I've always said, you've probably heard me say it, it's one of my axioms, everyone wants to be a star, but only as long as it's easy.
Right.
They get into, I've often talked about, the band, for example, that'll go and they think that, and sometimes it's people who seem like they should know better. Like they think you go out, you find a bar that you can play at every weekend, and if you're really, really good and you play there enough, eventually the mythical record company scout shows up and hands you a contract for a 10-album deal, and then puts you on a private jet, flies you out to LA, and then
Where's this club?
You're in a mansion and you're having sex with groupies, and there are still people who really think that that's, or some version of that is how it works. I mean,
I'm sure it's happened.
Oh, sure.
But,
in the 70s, I'm sure it might have. 80s.
If that's happening now, let me know what club that is, and I will go there and give it everything I have. 10-album deal, freaking private flights.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the beauty of it is, it wouldn't change me in the slightest. If they were like, yo, you have to talk about this, this, and that, I'd be like, all right, keep your deal.
Right.
Because it wouldn't even work. It wouldn't even work. It wouldn't be me. Like, the music would be so hard. It would literally be a job at that point. Because now it's like, the work is hard. I don't want to downgrade that. All the stuff I don't want to do, the booking tours and the working with other artists that come to my studio. Not that anything against them. It's just I'd rather just fully work on my own stuff all the time. But unfortunately, at this level, I have to find any avenue possible.
Sure.
But if you were to sit there and be like, you have to talk about drinking in the club and being around all these groupies and stuff like that, it's like
I can't.
I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't even imagine you rhyming about drinking in the club, and it's hard to imagine. How do you feel about the state of the music industry? This is something that's always an interesting discussion because people have very different ideas about it. My personal perspective is I think it's very healthy. It's just changed and it's still changing. But I think that it's we live in an amazing time where the internet allows you to communicate directly with your fans and connect the music directly with your fans. But you, I'm particularly interested to ask you about this because you have kind of a unique perspective in that you don't really like a lot of that. Like you've avoided iTunes, for example, or at least with your new release. Yeah,
one of my records is on iTunes, and I believe every 3 months I get a decent check from them. So
yeah,
I mean that's cool. I'm just not really about internet, 'cause like you were talking about all the hate you get on Twitter.
Yeah,
it's like I don't even read it. Like as soon as I even see it, I just whatever.
Yeah,
I ain't got time for that. If you're gonna sit there and say stuff on Twitter or Facebook that'll get your jaw broke in real life,
right?
You don't have the sack to say it to my face.
Right.
That's the thing. That is the beauty of all of this. I've gotten. I'll get back to your question.
Sure.
I have gotten hate online and stuff of that nature, not in the patriotic form, but as far as live shows and where people can, Tupac had the saying, "You can be touched." There was no secret behind it. You could be touched. Someone could walk up and touch you at any moment. The TV, record sales aren't bulletproof.
Right.
You know what I mean? And clearly, as you can tell. But no one at a show has ever said anything or even provoked me in the sense. Like, nobody, I don't want to say nobody wants it. Like, I'm too hard for life. But
right.
Nobody's going to do that, you don't want to get your jaw broke or your... You know what I mean? Broken nose, or you don't get hit in the face with a beer bottle in front of your girl. Because at a show, it's very... Tensions are high.
Yeah.
It's like you have the fans and you have the rappers.
Right.
And unless if you're at that level, Ill Bill, I'll really recommend. If you're at that very established level, you're kind of in the clear to a sense. They probably have their haters to a degree too.
Sure.
But when you're on that level to where you're each trying to climb, tensions are high.
Yeah.
So everyone... But I've seen other rappers go at it, but no one's messed with my crew. I run with a pretty gully crew. We're just like, other crews roll up with like, it looks like they literally went to the store right before the show, bought brand new sneakers, a brand new shirt, a brand new Echo Unlimited hat, and it's just like we roll up grimy, and everyone's like, "What the hell is this?"
You asked me once, actually, and it was an off-air conversation, but you asked me my opinion, what I thought was more important, image or the music, and I think at the time that you asked me that. I wasn't sure how to answer it because who knows?
Right.
I mean, it kind of depends on who you are, you know, and what you're comfortable with. But when you mention that, the guys who roll up looking like they just came from the store, and, you know, obviously to them, in their case, apparently the image is more important, but maybe they don't have the confidence in their music.
This is true. I know a group, throwing absolutely no dirt on them, but this is all truth. They talk about money, and they talk about making it hand over fist, and they got money signs in their name.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I went into the store grocery shopping one day, and that kid's stocking shelves.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And these are the same kids that wear these shirts, money over everything. And like, they're so trapped in the maze, they don't understand it. It's like, dude, you work probably for like $9.50 not to degrade anyone making that money, but you work for $9.50 an hour. You should probably talk about something other than money, because you don't have it.
Maybe they're trying to use the law of attraction, and they're just kind of misusing it.
Well, yeah. But to answer your question about the music industry, it's allowed a lot of streams and a lot of avenues for people such as myself and other people to come together and release their music without any label telling them what to do. The biggest issue is there's only so much pie in the music industry.
Yeah.
There's only so, whatever term you want to put on it. There's only so much mass. There's only so much money. There's only so much that people can digest.
Yeah.
So now that there's so many people in there, people get spammed a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Turned off. So is it a benefit? It's a benefit because no one can tell you not to, but in the same sense, it's like people have been spammed, so you have to find a way to promote your product without making it look like spam.
It's a double-edged sword.
It's completely double-edged.
Well, it's like YouTube. I was talking to somebody about YouTube. It's like, on the one hand, you can put a video. Anybody can put a video up on YouTube, and if you're fortunate, if that goes viral, I mean, that's how Justin Bieber got famous initially, you know. But on the other hand, it could also get lost. It could be a needle in what is an enormous haystack, because if nobody knows to go watch it, or if there's not some other way, some ancillary way to generate some buzz about your YouTube video, then you're just competing with some video of some adorable kitten, or the kangaroos fighting in the street. I don't know if you've seen that one. That was actually kind of interesting. I
don't do that.
I still think it's fake. But let me ask you. We're almost out of time, but let me ask you this: Do you in some ways feel like you were born too late? Because it almost sounds like you would be more comfortable in almost a 1980s business model of the music industry. Where people were, and people still do it, but where it was more common, people selling CDs out of the trunk of their car or whatever to build a name, and
I don't know about 80s. I definitely think 90s.
Yeah,
80s.
But pre Napster and all that.
Oh yeah, if this was
that was the big turning point.
If this was 96, 97, 98, not to sound egotistical, or it's kind of even really no use for me saying it because there's no proof. But I believe if it was then, I'd be right up there with the rest of them.
Yeah.
Because that time, especially because that was pre 9/11, and that's like the turning point. It's like as soon as 9/11 happened, everything went so PC. Back in the 90s, 95, 6, 7, 8, Jerry Springer, even wrestling. Like, I remember I was just flipping through the channels of flashbacks of wrestling the other day, and then there's this guy, Brian Pillman, he was pulling guns out in wrestling.
I remember that.
And now you turn on wrestling, and it's like John Cena and his...
Right.
Little,
it's all PG now. Yeah.
And I'm just like, 90s where it's at. I think people are too PC right now. This is funny. Someone randomly told me the other day, they said, you should really tone down your lyrics against women, which... This is my whole record, We the People. There's like 4 bars that could even be taken as sexist, if you will. But it's playful.
Sure.
Very playful. Sure. And I say things just to break people's PC molds. And then they reference a song I did that, like, yeah, that's my favorite song. And that song, I went way harder on it.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, but that song's catchy. So
Yeah.
it's like, if you make something catchy, it's like, does it even matter?
Yeah. You can't win. You'll never make everybody happy. And, the PC police, or the thought police, as I like to call them, it's people who complain about that stuff. To me, there's almost it's one thing to want to express concern over it, social issues and whatnot, but they some of them take it to an extreme where it's like you can't joke about anything. You can't. Some of them don't even understand satire. If you satirize something, they take it seriously and they're offended.
Right.
Stephen Colbert, for example, knows about that. Certainly, and a lot of folks do as well. There's almost think it was Jim Norton who said this, the comedian. There's almost a certain narcissism some of these people have, because it's like they believe that whatever is offensive to them specifically, that is what needs to be banned, and that is what no one should ever talk about or reference. And
it's a sue-happy culture, an intensive sue. So you have the court documents of suing somebody, but within that, it's I'm right, and all this.
Right.
So before we're said and done, I would like to give a shout out to New England Tattoo, Angel and his crew, Irving. Very, very professional people.
Yeah.
Just give a shout out. They sponsor me. And
very good.
And they're local. They're about a block away over 18 Orange Street in Manchester. So
very cool.
God bless them and everything they do.
Absolutely. Good. And also, too, before we wrap up, please, where do we find you online?
Hit me up on the Facebooks, the SoundClouds, the Twitters, the kdaver.com. I'm probably on a million other sites, but I can only maintain so many.
Sure. But if you go to the main site, I assume there's links to everything.
Yep, kdaver.com, facebook.com/kdaver603, Twitter _kdaver_. So
okay, cool. And I do want to remind everybody too that my newest interview on Local Outbreak with Kdaver will be, if you're in Central New Hampshire, you can hear it Sunday night at 10 o'clock on 100.1 The Planet, and immediately after that, wherever you are in the world, you can access it at ipmnation.com/local outbreak. And don't forget too, the radio edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed will be tomorrow night, every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, on the Dr. Kevin Radio Network at dkrn.fm, and you can get to that through ipmnation.com as well. So that's going to do it. We're out of time. Kdaver, thank you again so much, man, for being here today. This has been really cool.
Thank you for having me.
Always a great conversation, and I will talk at y'all a little bit later. Thanks, everybody.